Welcome back to What Arty Noobs for General Disturbance. This is the Clermont-Voroshilov tank, the KV-1. It's a tier 5 Soviet heavy tank. It's located on the northeast corner of Oyster Bay, and it's under the command of Razmalian Bayalov. Well, there's quite a few varieties and derivations of this tank in the game. This is the version with the 85mm gun. It's capable of doing 160 alpha, 120mm pen with standard ammo. With the APCR, it goes up to 161mm. With the HE rounds, it can do 280 alpha, but only 43mm pen. Now, this is a tier 5 game with only tier 5 tanks, so if he selects the right shell, he can actually do quite a bit more damage than most would think. So yes, it's actually a very dangerous tank for the enemy. And there's been lots of derivations, as I said, derivatives of this tank, permutated throughout all of the Soviet tank history. Yes, different varieties, different tanks, with just a few changes here and there, with extra armor or a different gun or a different turret. And he's found an enemy tank straight away, a Wolverine. And, oh, first shell misses. It's the rock face. But that guy's pointing his gun towards the well, he's actually pointing it somewhere else now. He didn't do too well. And the first two shots actually do penetrate, or the subsequent two shots. And he's managed to score 320 hit points off that Wolverine alone. There's an M4A1 coming towards us as well. He's just as vulnerable. Now, it does have fairly heavy armor. Oh, and he does take a round from the Wolverine, but it was an HE round. And yes, he's got the standard gun, and there he goes. And now the Mitsui is about to take a big hit. He was looking in our direction, but he only got a hit for 275 off us. And he's about to go out the game. Well, in fact, actually, he went down to the Zadimika, not to us. But we held him in place and did some ram damage. Unfortunately, we just lost the Zadimika. He got taken out by the M41 HMC. So their Arty's busy. Okay, we're backing up because he doesn't fancy turning around. And there's that M4A1 that he mentioned before, or I mentioned before. It's very slow at turning and traversing, so yes, I can understand why he wanted to do what he did. You don't want to get shot in the side while you're trying to back up. Now, he fired on the move. This seems much more accurate when it's firing from a stationary position. And he's locked onto the KV-1's rear, and now this guy is going to get completely reamed because, yes, he's in the wrong position. And there's no way he's going to be able to get out of this. There you go. He's gone. So that's 2 kills now to Razmalian. I hope I did mention his name right at the start. I'm pretty sure I did. He's in the NUKEE clan, and he has been submitting a few replays to us just recently. Now, there's 2 Artys on the enemy team, an M41 HMC who actually got the kill on the Zadimika. There's also a Gorilla. Now, the Gorilla's a little more accurate, although it's only got a 15cm gun, whereas the M41's got a 155mm. This 85mm armed KV-1 is one of the later derivations of the tank, because they actually had 76mm armed guns right at the start when they started off. And I actually have, right here in front of me, a whole list of tanks which are actually compared with the KV-1, which originally started off either as KV-1s or as something else, but compared to the KV-1. Well, there's a tank over there, an Su-85I, which, as we know, is like a Stug, but not quite a Stug, with an 85mm gun. So he's basically got a similar gun to the one we're using. And he stopped just for a second. He got distracted by that Panzerfahr. There's the Su-85. So he just poke up, and yes, nice shot. Tracked him, and he got damage at the same time. but he auto-aimed on, and that's taken away a little time while he actually had to de-auto-aim because he wanted to hit the top of the vehicle, and if he auto-aimed on, he was going to hit the ground in front of the guy because he was pulling back. Well, he's fired one blind there, but there's a couple of tanks off to his right, and he's concerned about those, and I would be too, because that one of those is an KV-103. We can now see that the Su-85 is on the move, and he's appeared. We get one hit there, but it's a low roll. We can get the kill shot with the next round, and he does. So now he can focus all his attention to the other tanks, and oh, there's one of the Artys. He gets a snapshot into that guy, which is pretty good, considering this tank doesn't traverse very well, but he actually gets the kill shot as well. So he's now got 4 kills. The IKV's gone. There's only one enemy left. It's an enemy KV-1. Yes, as I said, the KV-1 started with a 76.2mm gun, the ZIS-3 or the ZIS-32, depending on when. That's the 1940 variety. But it didn't have much in the way of alpha, but it certainly did have a large number of shells back then. Of course, 76mm was more than enough to cope with some German tanks at the time. He auto-aims on there, had to wait for the gun to pop up, and now he's, yeah. And unfortunately, the kill shot actually went to the BT-42, and we missed out. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the second class tank for Razmalian Bearloof in the KV-1. He managed to get a fighter badge by getting at least 4 kills. He did get 4 exactly. He also got a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points to his own vehicle, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. In fact, he got 6. But most of all, he actually picked up the high caliber in that game. Tier 5 game, but he did do the most damage, and that's something to do with the fact that he was actually carrying a high caliber gun, 85mm, which was basically the same as the Su-85 we saw in that game. But yes, he managed to get the damage on the Su-85, and I think that guy should have focused all his attention on Razmalian, but he didn't realize that Razmalian had the 85mm until, of course, he fired and got the kills. His win rate from that game, 7,977, which is super unicum and quite a bit more. Let's have a look at team score. Well, we can see the highest damage was 1,824 hit points. The second highest was the Excelsior on his team, who did 1,091. Third highest was the T67 on the enemy team, who managed 1,060. It does help you've got a 76mm gun that you're rapidly firing. That's why the C67 can rack up a lot of damage. It does have a good DPM. When it came to kills, yep, Razmalian got that as well. 4 kills to him. 2 kills went to the IKV-103, the BT-42, and the T67. And on the enemy team, their M41 HMC and their KV-1 all managed 2 kills. But they only had 3 tanks that actually scored kills in the game. And the other one was the IKV-103. And that's the reason why I was a bit concerned about the IKV, because yes, they do tend to get a lot of damage because they're firing a high caliber 105mm HE gun, which can do a lot of damage if it hits the right spot. And that's why you need to pay attention to that tank. The Su-85, you see, the one he hit, he just did a bit of damage, and that was actually to Razmalian, but he could take kills if he knows where to shoot the shells, and he didn't. So luckily, that's why he needed to be concerned about the Su-85, but also about that IKV. Anyway, when it came to base XP, we can see he's got that one too. So he's got the top in all 3 columns. 942 went to Razmalian, 716 went to the Excelsior, and 628 went to the BT-42, that Finnish tank with the 4.5-inch howitzer, which is actually a British gun inside a Soviet tank that was captured by the Finns and converted into a kind of cheap version of a KV-2, a smaller little runaround based on a BT-7. Anyway, let's have a look at detail. He fired 22 rounds. That's a lot. 14 direct hits and 12 penetrations. 1,824 hit points of damage, of which 229 were at more than 300 meters. So most of the damage done at close range. 5 hits received, only 2 penetrated, 2 non-penetrations, and 1 hit by way of splash. The armor on the KV-1 was actually quite thick for a tank at the time. 110 thickness millimeters on the front of the turret, 76 on the front of the hull, but it was angled. And the angled armor did make it difficult for the enemy to penetrate, that and the thickness. And the German tanks of the time, well, they were having a lot of trouble trying to get through that armor. It just simply was too thick for their caliber. Anyway, when he actually, in this game, he also blocked damage of 480 hit points. And he spotted 2 enemy vehicles, damaged 5 of the enemy, killed 4, and 322 hit points of spotting assist in the game. On a free-to-play account, he actually made profit of 30,989 credits, and that's pretty good for a tier 5 free-to-play. And he got 1,413 experience points out of that one as well. So not a bad game. In fact, he was a bit surprised that this was a high-caliber game. But then when you've got the 85mm gun, you can do a lot of damage to the enemy. The only problem is that if you go into a battle with an 85mm and say it was a tier 7 game or a tier 6 game, there's more than likely going to be somebody out there who A, knows how to penetrate you and has got a better DPM than you. So yes, you could end up losing out by having the 85mm instead of having the 57mm, which is of course a much faster firing gun. But of course it does have the problem that you're going to have to punch a lot more rounds into the enemy to get the kill with the 57mm than with the 85mm. So I hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and thank you for watching.